As the Gaza ceasefire approaches its second phase, the U.S. continues its military support to Israel with new arms shipments of heavy bombs. While Washington reaffirms its alliance with Tel Aviv, Israeli far-right government is calling for the resumption of the war on Gaza after the first phase of the ceasefire ends. How does this U.S.-Israel defense relationship affect the war on Gaza? What are the broader implications of the continued military aid for the future of Gaza's fragile ceasefire agreement? Welcome to In Depth. A shipment of heavy aerial bombs recently released by the United States government was received unloaded overnight in Israel. Israeli Defense Ministry stated, referring to Mk-84 munitions recently authorized by U.S. President Donald Trump's administration. Al-Ahram Online reported that earlier this month, Trump administration approved the sale of more than $7.4 billion in bombed missiles and related equipment to Israel. The United States Defense Security Cooperation Agency had commented that the sale improves Israel's capability to meet current and future threats, strengthens its homeland defense, and serves as a deterrent to the regional threats. Additionally, the news outlet reported that Israeli genocidal war on Gaza, enabled by tens of billions of dollars worth of the United States jet fighters and bombs, killed at least 48,000 Palestinians and wounded more than 110,000 others, most of whom are women and children. And for more analysis, we are joined from Cairo by Dr. Ashraf Singer, international relations expert. And a very warm welcome to the program, sir. Dr. Singer, the recent arrival of a U.S. bomb shipment in Israel highlights Washington's continued military backing. How does this reinforce the U.S.-Israel strategic alliance, and what message does it send amid ongoing ceasefire discussions?
It's very uneasy situation in the Middle East now, particularly after Trump administration approved that sales to Israel, and of course, Biden administration before Biden, departs the office approved $7.2 billion as a military aid to Israel. The situation is very, very hot in the Middle East now, particularly that United States will continue to focus on strong military support and countering Iranian influence. So the situation now is between Iran and Gaza. What is the right policy in the Middle East now, or what the right U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East now, it seems to me is a big chaos. In terms of Trump administration will assure and continue to ensuring the Israel qualitative military edge too. Unfortunately, the international community cannot really do anything for the Trump or against Trump policy. In other words, international community did their best, to put pressure in the U.S. to prevent Israel from getting, that military shipments or equipments. But unfortunately, still the international community, particularly Europe, Donald Trump does not listen to the Europeans. Basically, what I'm seeing now that imbalanced situation in the Middle East now will serve Israel interest, but completely will be against the Palestinians or against the balance of power in the Middle East.
Sir, we move on now to Mr. Ayman Al-Waqab, political science professor at Al-Quds University. A very warm welcome, sir, to our program. Given the U.S.'s military support to Israel, what impact do you think this has on the ongoing war on Gaza, which is facing a critical juncture as the second phase negotiations approach, sir?
After greeting you, what we follow of the occupation measurements in the reality indicates that Israel wouldn't go for the second stage, even for the first stage. We're talking about the assassination attacks in Gaza yesterday, targeting a set of personnel securing shipments into Gaza in the Magadi area, and the stopping of the entry of the tents and shipment of fuels and Israel. Even today, they're talking about that the U.S. envoy is reaching, or the Israeli delegation heading to Cairo without any authorities. And we're about 2 weeks to end the first stage, but mostly at the 1st of March until now, we've no a mechanism to move forward for the second stage. The occupation forces not comply with the first stage fulfillment. So how is it going to move into the second stage? And protection about the prisoners. So the positioning of occupation in Gaza Strip following the second stage. This aren't implemented. Even the first stage aren't agreed on the negotiations of the second phase.
Dr. Singer, the U.S. has committed billions in aid to Israel. In your view, sir, what are the strategic goals behind this financial and military support, especially from the perspective of the Trump administration, sir?
Would you mind to repeat the question again?
Of course, sir. The United States has committed billions in aid to Israel. They gave them, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, sir, they gave $7.4 billion arms deal to Israel, the United States. So the United States has committed billions in aid to Israel. In your view, sir, what are the strategic goals behind this financial and military support, especially from the perspective of the Trump administration at this point, sir?
Okay, so Trump administration believe that, keeping Israel as a dominant, military power in the Middle East, against any kind of threats coming from Iran, particularly, because this is the major threat, to the Israel, and basically supporting Israel with high level quantitative and qualitative, military equipments. This is very crucial. But unfortunately, the current leader now in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his far right wing in Israel government is leading Israel to create more wars than peace. Basically, Ben Gvir, Smotrich, both of them are driving Israel foreign policy or Israel military policy to engage with Iran, with Lebanon, with Palestinians, and even send some wrong signals to Egypt. The situation now in the Middle East is pretty crucial for that current aiding by the U.S. and particularly about approving $7.4 billion. And we understand if you are providing arms, this is kind of a cycle of arms race, and arms race sometimes lead to war. It seems to be very clear that there is no control of the Israelis, decision, particularly
Dr. Singer, in light, of course, of the shipments of bombs to Israel, and of course, Israel is in full control of the United States, or it's a mutual relation between them together. I don't know your narrative on this, but do you see or do you read the second stage is possible from your own perspective to take place in light of all the developments that are taking place so quickly? Marco Rubio visiting of course, visiting Israel in a press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu. Shipments of bombs worth $7.4 billion to the United States, of course, adding to all that the United States have been supporting Israel, and it was the main Israel of Israel throughout this war over Gaza. How do you read the situation, sir, and how optimistic are you about it?
Not happy, or not really feeling that is the situation in the Middle East gonna to be cooled down. Cool down, it means that is it's gonna to be escalate more. If you just read the statements by every official and every figure has he or she got appointment by Trump administration, all of them, they are giving green light to Israel to do what they can do from their perspective, just to secure themselves from their point of view.
Sir, do you read that the second phase of the ceasefire will be implemented in light of all the ongoings that are taking place now?
As New York Times said a month ago, the Israelis now, they need really to get all the hostages. And my concern, after they released all the hostages from Gaza, my fear that the Israel gonna to bomb Gaza again brutally.
It's all our concerns. I'll be back to you again, Dr. Singer. Dr. El-Raqab, how do you think the recent shipment of bombs to Israel could affect future ceasefire negotiations in Gaza?
Meaning the arrival of 1,080 tons of missiles by U.S. That shipment was restricted by Biden's administration, I think. It is in a preparation of the upcoming period. And we've seen the position of the IOF by complementing in the assaults recently. There are a very changing position, a new position that means the preparing back to Gaza, following the American support of waging a new war on Gaza. All this certainly would give a very serious indicator that the occupations do not wish for the ceasefire. And I've already indicated previously that the destruction of Gaza would, or rather the Gaza reconstruction would features of the just to drive the away from what's happening in the West Bank, and all this would lead to matters that of an uncertain or to more complicated, and the fueling the occupation to these arms that would give the occupation forces to be more assaults on the Palestinian people. Even the American statement says clearly that they are not participated in that, and he was insistent on the 19th agreement, but the attempts that undergoing doesn't serve in a way or another to resolve in the region, and will fuel more fires in the area, away of the political stability in the Palestinian territories.
Back again to Dr. Singer, with the United States consistently increasing its defense aid to Israel. How does that fit into Trump's America's First policy as he tries to reduce the amount of aid the United States gives to its allies? Isn't this a little bit contradicting, sir?
It's really contradicting, of course. Make America great again. This is really applied for Israel too. I would say we can really count Israel as a 51 states of the US. It's pretty clear, you know. What I'm seeing in Trump is continue to push for a greater regional cooperations, you know, between Israel and it is Arab neighbors, neighbors. But it depends on what? It depends on just make Israel the greater, you know, country in the Middle East by using the, you know, all the American power, you know, supporting Israel. But that degree of dissatisfaction among the Arabs is not right for the Middle East. You can really control the Middle East by giving Israel all the means, you know, to control the Middle East from their perspective, and their perspective is really against the international law and against, you know, even the European security, and that division between Europe and United States is pretty dangerous. I saw, you know, the German guy, you know, the head of the Munich conference for security. He was crying, you know, that kind of degree of pushing of the United States and Trump administration against Europeans. They really make these guys, you know, really very fragile. So it seems to me like now the Trump policy, it's pretty dangerous in terms of changing, you know, that kind of frame of the balance of power, change, you know, the status quo. Everything is really under huge chaos now, either in Europe, either in the Middle East. So we are really facing a very challenging situation. Probably we are waiting, you know, how the United States can really change its position from the check and balance, you know, between the Democratic Party and Republican Party. I will look at to the Congress, you know, the U.S. Congress, how really can really tackling, you know, that policy or the U.S. foreign policy. It seems to be like very dangerous, gonna to threats, you know, every corner in Middle East and Europe. But we're still hoping that Trump, when his visit to Saudi Arabia is coming, you know, soon. So probably if he can really meet with the MBS, you know, the Prince Mohammed bin Salman, probably can really, Saudi Arabia can really change Trump point of view, how really can really
So,
understand.
Dr. Ashraf Singer, just to wrap up to what you said, you see that the situation is very dangerous, and you said twice that the situation is very dangerous, of course, Trump's policy. However, you are optimistic about his meeting with Saudi Arabia's, of course, the the King of Saudi Arabia, and you're optimistic that things might change at that point when he meets him.
Yeah, I agree with your summary.
This
Yeah,
is
I
what you
agree.
said, sir. Okay, Dr. Raqab, what are the long-term implications of the United States continuing to supply Israel with such advanced military weaponry, especially in the context of the ongoing ceasefire in Gaza and the potential for renewed hostilities?
I think the United States of America have already said that should have a full release, and the absence of a mechanism of the release of the Palestinians in return. We're talking about a great crisis practiced by the Americans. And we hope to have some sort of a change of the American perception of the conflict. Americans, they have no visions with this regard. For the Americans to manage the conflict, not to lead to the depopulation of the Gazans. And this is in a dilemma of the matter in general for the American. So the endless support of the Israeli occupation in that way wouldn't lead for a peace in the region. Even if they pressured into the population of the Gazans, the danger isn't only in Gaza, but with the West Bank also. And for the American to be more reasonable, such as Cairo's voice, along with Saudi and Jordan, for a serious dialogue to end the conflict. But that way of denial of the Palestinian rights and the insistence of Trump's by force as a businessman would lead to be achieved in the political project. The region is an important partner, and they should be aware that the logic of being a partner, not a rival.
So, Dr. Raqaba, you read, of course, that this is a U.S. dilemma, endless U.S. dilemma that is endless, of course, with the endless U.S. support to Israel, and the occupation won't lead to peace at this stage in the region unless, of course, we reach in the West Bank, unless we reach a consent with Cairo and Saudi Arabia upon the meetings that are going to take place. Dr. Singer, do you think that this new arms shipments gives an impression that the United States will further support Israel's aggression on Gaza and the Palestinian territories while claiming that it wants peace? And of course, we all have doubts, and it's your answer and your narrative about this. When is the ceasefire, the second phase of the ceasefire, going to continue or not, sir? In light of course, all of this taking place.
No, we'll continue because the Israelis really need to get their hostages from Gaza.
After the hostages, Mr. Singer, what's going to happen?
I see the situation is very, very, very dark. I can see that the Israelis are gonna to push, their military actions again severely and brutally against the Palestinians. Unfortunately, it seems to me very clear that both the Americans, or the current administration, and the current administration in Israel, both of them, they are agreed on one position. It's just push Palestinians out of Gaza, unfortunately. So this is a very crucial situation. What we are facing now, the international community pretty silent. It seems to me they can't do anything against the direction by Trump. I hope that Trump can really change his view about Gaza, Rivera, or think about the right of Palestinians to exist, and they can really coexist with Israelis. This is what the Arab agreed, but creating that dilemma in the Middle East, unfortunately, gonna to create more violence rather than stability in the Middle East. It's very clear, that kind of policies that continue to create that kind of frictions with the international forums, like the United Nations. This is pretty hard that is United States now completely and Israel against the ICC, against the UN, against
the entire world, sir.
Yeah, it's completely against the entire world, like more than 150 states or nations, recognized Palestinian, a state of Palestine as a state, as member of the UN. But it seems to me like that kind of hard power create really a kind of a degree of instability in the Middle East, and all the people in the Middle East probably be very astonished by Trump policy. I hope that Trump, when he comes to Saudi Arabia, probably something can really change, and he can really accept the Saudi and Egypt, plan of how to rebuild Gaza without really displacement or removing, Gazans from Gaza. This is really crucial for the Arabs.
This is a joke, sir, and of course, Dr. Singer, the question will remain: how does this U.S.-Israel defense relationship affect Israeli war on Gaza? And what are the broader implications of continued military aid for the future of U.S.-Israeli relations? And we will wait and see the implications, of course, sir, and the broader implications, and we'll witness everything that's going to take place. That was Dr. Ashraf Singer, and of course, international relations expert, and Ayman Al-Raqab, political science professor at Al-Quds University. Thank you very much for your insights. That brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Qnews.